TGIF. And this time it's Friday morning. So instead of a beer, I've got a coffee. But I still haven't yet decided what I'm going to call this series. I had to film a few Fridays in a row just because I don't want to have too much pressure when it's time to have one of these Friday get-togethers. I don't have anything in the queue, so I wanted to film a few episodes before it becomes a regular thing. So thanks for being patient, and I have to work later on today, so I decided to film it this morning. So we're having a little latte quad shot to get me going this morning. All right, let's take a walk and talk about what's new in fly fishing. All right, so what's on the docket today? Today's episode, we're going to talk about something that truly is an innovation. Now, it's not something that's earth-shattering or going to change fly fishing forever, but it really is a cool and very functional accessory, and that is the new strike indicator from Oros. What makes this thing so special is that it's no longer going to tangle up your line. Typically, back in the old days, when we used the small little sticky styrofoam indicators, they never really lasted very long, and you couldn't adjust them. Then came the, what are those things called? The little air-filled, it's gonna come to me later. I just remembered, airlocks. Finally, it came to mind. And by the way, those airlocks, how many times have you lost those little black screw-on caps or the little washer? I have more airlocks in my bag that have no caps because I've dropped them. So that's one thing you don't have to worry about with the Oros strike indicator. No small parts to lose. With these new indicators, the way that they mount right at the center and then the two pieces screw together really is a game changer when it comes to strike indicators. And I know that sounds dramatic, but it's reality. I have really enjoyed these indicators both for stillwater fishing and for river fishing. Now, there are some pros and cons to both, right? If you're tying one of these on in a river, you do have two pieces to contend with. If you drop one of those pieces, it's going to float away pretty quickly and you might lose half of your indicator. The other is that they do have a tendency to slip. So you do have to tighten them together fairly tight, especially on lighter leader, if you want them to stay above your fly. Now, the pros is that you're not going to get any of the tangling that happens with other indicators, right? Because it's right down the center. Just physics won't allow them to twist on your line. So they are much friendlier to your leaders. So I do like that. Another pro is that they are visible, right? They really float high above the water, and you can even tie the two colors together if you want to really get crazy, but they're super visible and they float nice and high. I don't see much of a difference compared to other indicators on how they float. I did hear some feedback that some of these indicators have a tendency to drag in rivers, but as you can see in this video right here, there was no discernible drag that I think influenced the fly. And you can certainly tell when the strike happens with these particular indicators. So I'm super happy with the Oros indicators, and I think if you do a lot of strike indicator fishing, whether it's in lakes or rivers, I think you should pick some of these up for yourself because they really are better than anything else out there today. So these indicators come in 3 sizes, if you can find them. They have been like super popular and have been selling out at a lot of the fly shops, but I'm sure they're going to catch up here shortly. But they come in 3 different sizes. So these indicators come in a small size, which typically I use if I am fishing any type of lakes or stillwater. Really is when I use the smaller flies, or the smaller flies and smaller indicators, because when you're fishing stillwater, you do have to pay attention to how hard they hit the water. And some of these larger Oros indicators will hit the water in a way in a stillwater that it might spook the fish. So I use the smaller indicators when I'm fishing stillwater. Now, the medium size and the large sizes typically I use in rivers. You want something to be able to float higher up on the water and be able to support heavier flies, and that's typically what you're using if you're running a double nymph setup or happen to have a streamer below an indicator. You're going to need something a little more robust, and when it hits the water, you're casting above where you want to fish anyway, so it doesn't really matter when it comes to scaring the fish. So they do come in these 3 different sizes to choose from. They also come in 3 different colors. They have white, orange, and pink. And again, like we talked about just before we came down on the dock here, if you really want to get crazy, you can tie them together, and it actually helps because with some situations with glare, it helps to have a couple of different colors. It's just easier to spot with your eye. So a lot of times you'll see when I'm fishing, I've got a 2-color Oros indicator that I'm using anytime that I'm fly fishing. All right, everybody. Well, thanks again for joining me on today's Friday new fly fishing gear and coffee and refreshments. Again, I'll still take suggestions, right? If you have a name that you'd like to see or an idea about what I should name this series, leave it down in the comments. I do appreciate it. And if you happen to miss episode 1, check it out right here. We talk about, it's not innovative. Well, there's some innovation in this particular net, but it's the newest fly fishing net on the market, made in the USA, family owned, heck of a net. Check this out right here. Episode 1, Friday, beers and gears, or cocktails and gears, or cheers and beers, or cheers and gear. We'll figure it out. All right, everybody. Until the next time, fish on. Oh, so good.